This one, maybe. Great. Hi everyone. So again, I will say this: if you are a Pantops CAC member and you are in the meeting as an attendee, if you can update your name to be your first and last name, so I can allow you to become a panelist, so you can join the meeting officially and count towards quorum. That would be great. If you are an attendee from the public, you'll be able to raise your hand and ask questions during the transportation presentation portion of the meeting, but we will not see you just due to county policy with meetings. If you are a member of the CAC, you have to keep your camera on the full time to be counted towards quorum again. And I'd ask you all to just stay on mute unless you are speaking. And please, even panelists, so CAC members, if you'd like to ask a question, raise your hand and we can call on you so everyone isn't talking at once potentially during Kevin's presentation. So again, if you are a member, um, and you would like to be counted towards quorum and in the meeting, please update your name to your first and last name, and I can let you in as a panelist. And you can count towards quorum and talk slightly more freely than you can as just a normal member of the public attendee. Like I mentioned, this is being recorded now and will be uploaded to the county's YouTube page tomorrow or as soon as it's done processing tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure how long that process takes nowadays, but I will upload it tomorrow after I get to work. So, Dick, if you'd like to start the meeting and we can follow the agenda. Thank you.
So this is Dick Ruffin. I hereby call this meeting to order at 6:25. There is not yet a quorum. We will proceed without a quorum, but we'll recognize a quorum as soon as we have, I think, one other person on the line. We have 6, we need 7. And I would ask to be sure that nobody who is on the call is mistakenly failing to launch themselves onto the panel. If we have a member of the committee in the amongst the attendees who's not signed on to be in the panel, please do so now so we have a quorum. Without a quorum, we cannot even approve the minutes, as I understand it. So I believe that's correct, Allison. But thank you for preparing the minutes, and I'm sure we will get a quorum. And
We
as soon
have
as we do,
one person who may be a member who has raised their hand, and I'm going to let them talk. And if they are a member,
what's
if
the
you guys
name?
could update your name, it says Wooten. So I think it probably is
Oh yeah, Ida
Ida
Lee.
Lee. But Ida Lee, if you would like to change your name to make it your name, so I can let you become a panelist. But I'm going to allow you to talk anyway right now. So if you'd like to tell us if it is you.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
So
thank
this is
you.
Ida Lee. This is Ida Lee, but I don't know how to change my name. I have no idea how to do that.
Uh,
I think
eh,
if you click on the three dots up in the top corner of your screen, you'll be able to change your name. I don't know if I can do it for you. Actually, I can probably when I promote you. So now that we know
Okay.
it's you, I will promote you. So I'm going to mute you for a second, then it'll ask you to rejoin, I think, and be
Thank
in
you.
as a panelist. So let's see if this works. And it lets her be a panelist, and then we can rename her. And then Ida Lee, you will need to make your camera on to count towards quorum.
Very good. So we continue, and quorum is now declared. First order of business, is to just review the agenda, which I think is straightforward. We have a presentation tonight from Kevin McDermott on all manner of transportation issues, and we look forward to that. But first, we will turn to the minutes that have been previously distributed. First, the December of 24 minutes as circulated. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes as circulated? You can raise your hand.
I move to approve the minutes from December.
I will second it.
And a second. All in favor, raise your hands. So carried. The second minutes are those for January. They also were previously circulated. Do I hear a motion to accept those minutes? Thank you, Ida Lee. And a second?
Second,
Who is that?
Frank.
Frank, thanks, Frank. All in favor? You can raise your hands. I can see them.
Dick, I was out of the country then, so I'm going to
Yes, I
recuse.
thought. And then, so they're otherwise approved. The third set of minutes are those for March. And Allison, I would call attention to the fact that the actual presentation for our Pantops CAC was from Ann Wall, not from Mr. Richardson. So just make that change. Subject to that change, I would approve it. Does anybody, again, have any corrections or additions? If not, I ask for someone to move its approval.
I will move to approve the minutes, Dick.
Thanks. And a second. Ida Lee, all in favor? Say aye. Raise your hand. Very good. That's approved. We do not have, thank you. I think that is all our business. There were some February notes, but they have not been circulated yet. And in no case, we did not actually have a quorum in February. So there are no minutes as such to approve. I will conclude this part of the meeting and get on to our key subject of the evening. Kevin, we can turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Dick. I will go ahead and share my screen. And Allison had asked if I could come in for a presentation on all things transportation. And so that is what I've got. And she gave me a few of the things that you all might be interested in. So I tried to cover those items in here. And let's see if I can turn this to a presentation mode. Okay. So I'm going to try and cover those items that I had heard that you would like to see or like to hear about. And as a matter of fact, if you just give me 1 second, I'm going to. Okay, perfect. I can see my notes. So to start off with, my name is Kevin McDermott. I'm the Deputy Director of Planning. Thank you for having me here tonight. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with kind of going over a little bit of background about transportation planning in general, how it works in Albemarle County. Some of you may have heard at an all-CAC meeting. I've kind of abbreviated some of that information, but wanted to make sure I went over it to make sure that everybody understood kind of where we come from with our transportation planning. And then I'll move into some talk about some of the major projects that are going on in the Pantops area and give you some updates on that. So to start off with, I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands the roles and responsibilities as they relate to transportation in Albemarle County. So to begin with, It's important to know that VDOT manages and maintains all the roads and the rights of way adjacent to them. It includes sidewalks and the shared use paths. And you understand maintenance is making sure that the pavement condition is in good shape, bridges are in good repair, traffic signals and other signage are all working and operational. But by manage, what I mean is that they also ensure that the designs of transportation facilities are meeting what the state and FHWA have said should be those standards. So that includes things like pavement width, how curbs are built, all that kind of stuff. So VDOT really has a lot of say over exactly how things get built throughout the county. And when I mention the maintenance piece, also keep in mind that includes tree trimming and anything like snow removal, obviously. So that's all covered by the Virginia Department of Transportation. The TJPDC, and that stands for Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, and the Charlottesville Albemarle Metropolitan Planning Organization are regional planning agencies that bring bodies together to make sure that the county's coordinating on transportation issues with all of our surrounding jurisdictions and the state. So the TJPDC covers multiple counties and cities within the region, and then the Charlottesville Albemarle MPO is covers the urbanized area of Charlottesville and Albemarle County. So it's really focused pretty solely on the urban neighborhoods surrounding Charlottesville. And so we work together, and they receive federal money to do that planning for us. The county's role beyond liaising with all those other organizations is really to develop the short and long range plans for the county. We work with developers to review their proposals, ensure that whatever development is addressing the transportation needs and impacts that they might have on the area. And we also work to identify broader transportation needs. I'll get into a little bit more detail on how we do that, but staff works with the Board of Supervisors to provide them with information. We perform long-range planning activities, and we also look for funding. So we are the ones that really go seek out funding from the state or federal bodies and go and make grants to try and receive money to move forward with planning or construction projects throughout the county. Based on that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the transportation planning process in Albemarle County. And really, I'm going to go through these 4 steps. Where do projects come from? How are projects chosen? How do we pay for projects? And then how are the projects scheduled? So the early planning process really focuses on identifying where transportation needs are not being met. So we are constantly working with the Department of Transportation and evaluating things like safety issues that come up, operational issues that come up. We're looking out to new development, what's coming online, whether that's residential or commercial, and what kind of transportation needs might be associated with that. So we're in this constant feedback loop where we're looking at all those things and then trying to figure out, well, where do we need new transportation projects? Once we kind of identify those, we usually enter into some sort of a transportation planning process. So projects are identified in different plans, including the comprehensive plan, master plans, corridor plans, or smaller studies. We'll talk about one in a little bit, like if a particular safety problem is identified somewhere, we will often work with VDOT to do a study of that small area to figure out what the problem is and how we might be able to address it. So those are some of the different ways that we identify different projects in plans. We also listen a lot to community input on transportation concerns. Not the county staff nor VDOT, we can't be everywhere. So when we hear about problems from the public, whether that's through board members, through calls directly to staff, we often start to evaluate it, looking into those and seeing what the problem may be and if there's something that we need to address. So that's another big way that we work through the planning process. Once those projects are identified into plans, we really need to look and prioritize those. Obviously, there's not enough funding to do every project that we ever recognize out there. So what we have to do is we've got to look at all the projects, and based on Albemarle County's goals and what's outlined in like the comprehensive plan, what really is the most important projects for us to move forward with. So, you can imagine that when we identify major safety issues, that's something that we're always going to really prioritize pretty high up and see if we can move into a planning phase or a funding phase for that. So we're always trying to find out what's the most important thing, and we've got to be considerate of the funding as well. So the projects that we prioritize, they come out of all of those project documents that I talked about, those master plans and corridor plans. We put them all together, and then we select metrics based on what we think Albemarle County really needs to do to address transportation, or what our transportation desires are, and then we rank those projects based on those metrics. Like I said, metrics can be things like safety. They can be to trying to address environmental concerns. They can be trying to allow new economic development to come in, or new housing, whatever those needs are that we've identified, we'll rank the projects by that. Getting into some of our common funding mechanisms. This list right here provides kind of an example of some of the most used funding mechanisms that we have. State funding opportunities include Smart Scale, which is really the largest funding program that we can go after. This is run by the state, and it is a prioritized funding mechanism that the county submits projects, and they're scored based on certain metrics. And then the state will fund those, so looking at essentially what got the highest score and moving on down until they run out of money. There's multiple billions of dollars in this fund every 2 years that we go after, and it's a really competitive process. We've had a lot of successes, but of course we don't never get all the projects we're looking for. Revenue sharing. Oh, and I'll highlight here, Smart Scale is entirely state funded. So when we go after a project and it scores well, that the state funds that entire project. So the county doesn't have to put in any local money towards that. Revenue sharing, on the other hand, is another major funding initiative that we use, where the county agrees to put in half of the cost of the project, and then the state will fund the other half. So we have to pay for 50% of those projects, and there are limits to that. They'll only pay for 50% up to 10 million. So if we have projects that go over 20 million total, the county's responsible for that entirely. This is a less competitive option because we are putting in our own money for that. But it is a very important program that we use. But we tend to save those for smaller projects. As you can imagine, the county's local funding, we just don't have as much as we would like to be able to put towards all the projects in our CIP. And so we tend to select projects in the maybe $8 to $10 million range for revenue sharing. Transportation Alternatives is a federal funding source that actually runs through the state. And this is, once again, a competitive project or a competitive process, but Transportation Alternatives is focused strictly on funding bicycle and pedestrian projects. It's a little bit more competitive. There's not quite as much money in that program, but we have used it to get a few really good projects out of it. In that case, we have to put in 20% of the total project cost, and the federal state government will put in the other 80%. So it's a good deal, but like I said, there's only a few million available in our entire district to really put towards those projects. So it is pretty competitive. There's also the major federal funding opportunities. I have here, it says raise build. This is really something that's funded through the federal government every year, and they keep changing the name. So we were awarded a raise grant a few years ago for what's called the Three Notch Trail, which is this major planning project that we're kicking off right now. But when President Trump then came into office, he renamed the project, the program Build, but it's really the same thing. They may kind of tweak the goals a little bit, but they're the same program, and this is a significant amount of funding. It is determined by the feds every year. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less, but it can really be used to fund major planning and construction projects, easily up into the hundreds of millions of dollars. But as you can imagine, this is a very competitive program. When we won that the Three Notch Trail planning grant, it was a really exciting moment for us because it's not something that a lot of communities really get awarded. So it's a great opportunity for us. And once you get the planning grant, the good thing about that is then you can finish your plan, and then you're at the top of the list for future construction funding or implementation funding. So we're really excited about the raise grant that we got. There's also another program called Reconnecting Communities. This is something that we've made some applications for in the past, but have not had a lot of success with. However, it is a good program, and what it's focused on are projects that are connecting across transportation barriers. So major highways, railways, things like that. So looking at how you can reconnect communities that were split by transportation infrastructure. We have recently gone after a few grants to look at 29 North actually and see if there's opportunities there. We're going to keep evaluating that program to see if there's future opportunities. And then finally, we've got local funding. We're going through our county budgeting process right now. It's very close to being complete. In that budgeting process is the capital improvement program. And if you look at that, you'll see a lot of transportation projects that are funded. Some of those funds that you see in the CIP are our local contribution to programs like revenue sharing, but a lot of times we use the CIP to fund a construction project straight out. So that's a great opportunity for us. And then finally, we've got the developer funded and or constructed improvements. So whenever developers come in to build a neighborhood or even a single lot, we often rely on them to make sure that the transportation either within their development or adjacent to their development is ready to handle whatever they're proposing. So that can be something as small as adding a missing link of sidewalk across the front of their property, or building an entire road system for a new neighborhood. So there's a lot of things that we get there. We also can work with developers when they are proposing a major project. They'll very often include in that proffers that could be for money or for a major construction project that's off-site but is addressing some of the problems within their development. So there's a lot of ways we can work with developers to help us continue to develop our transportation system. And that was my background. And now I'm going to get into, I think what you all are probably really looking forward to hearing is some of the updates on our major transportation projects in the Pantops area. I've got some of these, they've been around for a while, I think you've heard about, and I'm giving you the update. And then there's a few new ones that we'll talk about as well. So to begin with, one that's been around for a little while is the US 250 East Corridor Improvements, which run from Route 20 up to Rolkin Road. You can see on the left there, that's where approximate location of where this is. And the project is really operational pedestrian safety and access management improvements on 250. It includes construction of a median and with openings for left turns and U-turns. This project cost was just under 6 million. It was funded through Smart Scale about, I think it was 5 years ago that this one was funded. So it has been working through the funding and then the design stages. And at this point, we are really finishing up the design and moving into right of way. And I think we're going to start seeing some construction out there early next year. And it's proposed to be completed in fall of 2028. And this is just a little snapshot of what's proposed there. If you all can see this on your computers, I know it's probably small, but this is 250 through this whole area. On this end is Route 20, and way up here is Rolkin. And this, what you see through here is the new median that they are going to put in that is going to close that two-way left turn down the center. It will have brakes in this area over here. I think that's right by Town and Country, so that people can make lefts into Town and Country and lefts out. And then there's also a U-turn location here, so that if people wanted to if they were heading westbound and they wanted to get to one of the dealerships on this side, what they would do is they would go up and make the U-turn here and come back. That two-way left turn lane has been problematic for us for a long time. I think it results in a lot of accidents out there. It slows traffic up. And so we're really excited about this project to try and improve that. There's also some turns up there at Rolkin. I'll also highlight that there's a new segment of sidewalk going in. It's the one missing segment of sidewalk on 250, or on this section of 250. And that's going to be part of the project as well, and some upgrades to some of the ADA environment out there. So some of the sidewalk ramps are also going to be improved through this project. Another project, which has actually now been combined with the 250 corridor project, they're going to be constructed at the same time together, is the US 250 Route 20 intersection improvements. These two projects, they were both funded by Smart Scale, but actually in separate years. And then they accelerated one of the projects to make sure that they could do it together to try and achieve some economies of scale there. So this will reconstruct that 250-20 intersection and rebuild the signals, add pedestrian facilities and turn lanes, and some pedestrian improvements as well. The cost is estimated to be at about $8.8 million. That is also in design and on that same construction schedule. So in early next year, you'll start seeing some construction, and it'll be completed by fall of 2028. I have here a design that shows what the improvements will consist of, so that you can recognize. I'm sorry. I don't know. Do you all see my cursor? Let me put on my. I didn't even think about that. Let me use my laser pointer here. But this is Stony
Good.
Point heading north, in case so you can orient yourself. This is 250 right here, so the city would be towards the top of the page. What we're doing with this project is we are realigning some of the turn lanes to try and allow them to work more efficiently, including, say, on the Riverbend Drive side, we're changing that so there's only one lane in two left turn lanes, one right turn lane, and one through lane to allow that to operate a little bit more efficiently. We're also adding turn lanes on this side. We are closing the median to prevent people from cutting across there, making it a little bit safer. And we're adding new pedestrian facilities. You can see here there's a new pedestrian crossing across 250, and that will include a median refuge, so a little place that you can stop in the middle where you're up on the curb and protected from traffic, so that you can cross it in 2 stages if you need to. It's also adding some of the missing sidewalk along this side of Stony Point, and rebuilding all the signal infrastructure so that we can really make it operate a lot better. So those are the elements of that project.
Could I just ask a question whether the U-turn will still be allowed from 250 east at Stony Point, at Route 20?
Yes,
Yes.
it will still be allowed. Yeah, I think you're referring to
Yes.
the turn here that is a popular movement to make, but an unpopular movement for people to see. I think it can, but it also, I think some of the improvements with this right turn lane, I think will allow that to happen a little bit more easily. I think it's going to widen that out a little bit
Good.
to give them more space. So it should make it a little bit safer.
Thank you.
So moving on, wanted to talk a little bit about the
Kevin?
Free Bridge Lane. Yes,
I'm sorry, going back to that other one, that signal, I was told that we could get the red light signal there, for people who speed through red lights. So it'd be a red light photo camera there. Is that still going to happen?
That's not happening as part of this project. And I'm not sure. I have heard that was a request that was made, and I think that's something that's working its way through the Albemarle County Police Department to determine how that could operate, along with our county attorney. I'm sorry, I don't have the latest update on that, but I'll look into it and get back to you.
Okay, I've been asking for that for years. When they took it down from Rio and 29, then I asked if it could be used here when I found out that these improvements were being made.
Yeah, I knew I had heard of the request. I'm not particularly working on it, but let me look into it and see if I can find out where that is for you.
Thank you.
Right. So the Free Bridge Lane Promenade. This was a pilot program to close Free Bridge Lane to vehicles and convert it to bike and pedestrian promenade. When we looked at all the proposed improvements that we would like to make out there, we costed those out to be about $55,000. But what we're doing right now is we did close this road back in October of last year for a 1-year pilot program. And we're really doing this as a test to see how well it works. So we got a permit from VDOT that would allow us to do this closure. And we're doing that until October. Our plan is that we are collecting data, collecting all the information on it. We're going to come back to the board in late summer and see if the board is interested in making this a permanent thing. So essentially what we would do to make it permanent is we would remove Free Bridge Lane from the state VDOT and VDOT system and take it in as a county really kind of park-like road, I guess, or trail. And so we would then be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of that. And then we could also start to look at some of those improvements that were suggested under that. So we're evaluating this pilot program now. We'll come back in late summer. I will say that the evaluation, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and we are doing counts out there. And we have an unofficial count that since it was closed, I think they counted 19,000 people have walked past our counter out there. So a lot of usage is going on. And I think and that was through the winter. So we're really excited about what's going to happen in the summer. And then I just wanted to show a little bit about what that means. Yes, ma'am.
Kevin, sorry. I just also wanted to say that the newly formed Parks, Albemarle County Parks Foundation, that they are also, this is on their radar screen for amenities for the promenade.
Oh, great.
Not to replace the county, but to enhance.
And one point that some of those thinking about improvements, Kevin, are aware that there's a pilot dead time frame, and so ideas that would involve more than a little effort may not be worth doing until we know whether it's going ahead. So right now, I think the group is thinking mostly of fairly temporary things, some marking off some quarter mile, half mile for some running. Maybe you can do a little driving course with chalk, simple things you can do, not permanent infrastructure. So as soon as we got any word on the likelihood of going forward, I think there could be more intention and serious planning for small improvements with the Parks Foundation, which be mentioned, and other citizen initiatives approved by the county, of course.
Yeah, well, that sounds wonderful. Yes.
And by the way, they have not raised any money whatsoever right now. So it'll take time before any amount of money is really raised. So not a problem.
Yeah. We are partnering with the Parks and Rec department on this project. They're a major player, of course. They are the ones that would be taking on any real maintenance responsibilities out there. And if there's future improvements needed, we would have to work with them. So I know they are a partner of the Parks Foundation as well, or working. Parks Foundation's working through them. So it's great that we can all coordinate on something like this. And I'll just remind you as you see this picture that's up here now. So this is what the pilot really is. It installed this gate just south of the existing trailhead parking. So right there where the Freebridge Lane meets up with the trail. It's closed all the way down to that area where there's some parking adjacent to the road, and then the little area where you can turn around there. So that's where it is currently, where it's currently closed off. And this picture on the left, this was from our initial study that sort of looked at some of the ideas of what we could do out there. And you can see we've talked about reducing, if we did close this entirely to vehicles, there wouldn't really be a need for it to have both a road, or the existing road and the existing shared use path. So we could remove some of that extra pavement that we don't need. We could add things like picnic tables and viewing areas, and also do a little bit of riverbank restoration and some other conservation improvements out there. So some really great opportunities if we do decide to move forward with this. So the next project you've probably heard about before, but there is an update to this one. The US 250 East corridor improvements, which go from Rolkin Road over to Peter Jefferson Parkway. It was a smart scale project that we applied for in the 2 rounds ago in smart scale. It wasn't funded that first time, but we did apply again in this current round, and it is now recommended for funding. So
good.
We're really excited about that. The package of improvements include pedestrian infrastructure and accessibility improvements, a park and ride lot, access management along that section of the corridor, sort a little bit similar, closing some of the medians similar to what we're doing on the other side of the corridor, and some other improvements that would address safety and congestion and multimodal accessibility. The total cost of this project is $36.4 million. So a big award. Our dollar isn't going as far as it used to. Well, I think if we had applied, maybe 5 rounds ago, this was probably like a $8 or $9 million project. Now it's a $36 million project and the same thing. But one way or the other, it has been recommended for funding. The final funding scenarios will be approved by the Commonwealth Transportation Board in June of this year. So, and then we'll know that we'll know after June once if it was definitely funded. An update on how funding works though with Smart Scale is that when the state funds projects through Smart Scale, they put it into the 6-year plan, but what they're doing is they're filling the back 2 years of that 6-year plan. So although this is going to get approved for funding, there likely won't be any money put on the project and no work will start for about 4 years. So that's how long it takes to really move these things forward. And then it's all expended essentially at the end of the 6 years, although there may be some construction still going on beyond 6 years. So just an example so you understand the timelines for these big state-led transportation projects. I've got a little figure here that will show you some of the improvements that we're making. So this is up there at the top of the road, right at the entrance into the Giant and the Superstore there. And you can see we've got a new pedestrian crossing, including pedestrian islands breaking out the right turn lanes. There's pedestrian island on this end of the entrance, and then you can see new pedestrian crossings all through there. There is a new sidewalk. This is a missing segment of sidewalk that goes all the way down to State Farm Boulevard. So it's a very tight, narrow area, but we were able to figure out a way to get that in. And then moving towards the Peter Jefferson side of this, some of the improvements include closing the median through here. You can see they've got the new lines in there to improve safety, and then converting Peter Jefferson Parkway into a through cut. So what that does is it means that you're no longer going to be able to go straight across from one side to the other. So if you were to go from Glenorchy over to here, you would have to make a right and go in through State Farm to get back there, or make a U-turn to come back in. When they looked at it, they realized that very few vehicles were going straight across there, but it was taking a lot of time with the signal because you have to have all that built-in extra time for the red, then the yellow, and you have delays between them all. And so it used up a lot of time, but really didn't benefit very many people. And so we could remove that and give them other opportunities to make that movement with really improving the overall operations of that. And then you can see the proposed park and ride lot, which is right here on this lot, on the north east or northwest corner of the intersection. This is a concept sketch only. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like ultimately, but that's the proposal right now. And so I think that's all the elements of that project.
Okay. Kevin?
Yes, ma'am.
My understanding is that Westminster Canterbury, that they purchased that land where the park and ride is.
Yes, that is, I believe that is true. They've purchased a lot of the lots that go up on Glenorchy Drive. I think almost all of the ones along the road are now owned by Westminster Canterbury. We've had some contact with them about this. We look forward to working with them to get the park and ride lot in addition to what they would like to see out there at some point. So I think those conversations will continue.
I'm sure they will.
Okay, a little update on Microcat. So Microcat is our on-demand public rideshare service. I'm not sure how many of the people in the room have had an opportunity to take it, but if you are within the Pantops development area and you want to get either anywhere else in Pantops area or over to the 29 North development area, this is an option for you. It's an app-based service similar to Uber or Lyft, and but it is 100% free. The other major difference is also that it is a ride share service. So it may not be a personal ride. You may be joined by other people that are going to making that same trip or a similar trip as you once you order it. But once you get on the app and you actually put in where you want to go and confirm it, typically they will pick you up within 20 minutes, and it's door-to-door service. So as long as you are going within these areas that are highlighted in this map, door-to-door service, free, and typically within 20 minutes you can get that pickup. So it's a really great opportunity for those areas where transit really isn't reaching you. Our current CAT fixed route service may not go into the neighborhoods. This is really a way to address that first mile, last mile problem. So if you need to go into the city, you will have to transfer to one of our fixed route services, but this is an opportunity that you can get picked up at your house and brought to the nearest point where you can get on a CAT bus to get into the city or over to the university. So we're excited about the way this is working. The pilot began in October of 2023. It was scheduled to run for 2 years, and it has been a very big success. We get between 6,000 and 6,500 riders every month on this thing. So it's become really popular. We will once again be coming back to the board to review this pilot and figure out how we want to move forward, if we want to adapt it in some way or continue it. We're hoping to be able to do that in this late summer so that we can be prepared for when October comes, at least possibly moving it through till the end of the fiscal year so that we know exactly how funding will work. So that's where we are right now with that. But it's really a great program, and I encourage anybody to get out and give it a try if they haven't yet.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Is it expected that the Route 10 bus will have its routing into the, I think comes into Avamore. Will that cease if this is successful and made permanent?
It may be, and that's one of the things that we need to consider as we're moving forward is should we focus our fixed route service a little bit differently so that it's a higher frequency but doesn't go into the neighborhoods as much. Right now, there's no specific plan to do that, but as we move forward, and we work in partnership with our regional transit providers like CAT, and that's also through groups like the Charlottesville Albemarle Regional Transit Authority, which was very recently created, and they are trying to implement our transit recommendations from our transit vision plan. So those are some of the things that we'll really want to consider with CARTA or the RTP as we move forward. But you're really on the right track there with the comment is that the idea behind the microcat is it can get people to a fixed route service more efficiently than having fixed route go into these neighborhoods where they don't pick up a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good thought there. The next project is a new one for the list. Something that I know a few people in this on this group have been interested in, but this is the Route 20 Pedestrian Improvement Study. This was initiated after the tragic loss of life we had on Route 20 a number of months back. It's probably been almost a year now at this point, but a long time ago, where we had someone crossing the street, apparently going from the bus stop to Riverside Village, a family and hit and lost the life of a few of the members of that family. So as you understand, this is how we have to look at these things is when we see these problems like this, it's something we would have wished we could have caught ahead of time, obviously, but we see that now and we recognize this is a safety issue. And so we're trying to move forward with a project that will address this. VDOT has begun the study. It's a VDOT-led study to look at all the potential improvements out there that we could make and see what's most cost effective, and we can move forward with. And we just recently got the recommendation, and this doesn't show everything exactly how it is, but I just wanted to give everyone here an idea of what we're looking at. So these are where the shops at Riverside Village are, right here. So this is the northern entrance to Riverside Village. And then right here, you can barely see where the curb comes in. That's where the current bus pullout is. So the idea behind this plan is to put a new pedestrian crossing that would line up with the breezeway that goes between those shops right here, and connect them people across the street. The blue represents a new median and curb that would be put in to create a pedestrian refuge midway across that. And then what you see here is an extension of the current sidewalk and buffer area that would close the existing 2-lane area through here. I will point out that this shows it ending right here. I think the proposal now is actually to close the 2-lane section between both entrances to Riverside Village so that it wouldn't become a 2-lane section until after you're south of that second entrance. So you would have that closure of the road, and that would create just one lane of traffic that pedestrians would have to cross going each direction, making that safer. And one of the real benefits is that as part of this study, as we looked at it, we recognized that the speeds out there were much higher than we would like to see, much higher than the speed limit. And so by narrowing this road, reducing those lanes, we expect that to act as a traffic calming technique. So we hope that will slow traffic up through that area as well. Once again, making it safer both for pedestrians and drivers. So currently, VDOT is reviewing this final recommendation, going to try and develop some cost estimates, and then we'll start trying to identify some funding to move forward with that.
Again, if I may ask, I'll make one comment. The church is beginning to function opposite the entry to Riverside Village. And observing last Sunday, which again is not a big problem because it's only one day of the week, that the number of people who turned into Cornerstone on the southbound Route 20 was quite large, and it backed up a bit. So the blue area of where you would close off would restrict the length of the left turn lane into the church. And it might ask VDOT to see how they could extend that a little bit in a safe way, because I think it could present a backup impeding traffic in the single lane going south, right? Because they can't get into the left turn lane, therefore they stop in the through lane and impede traffic. So it's just a problem. I don't know whether someone from VDOT could observe it on a Sunday and see how it goes. And it may not be a problem if it's just one day a week, but I mention that.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great point. I will definitely point that out. The church, I have not looked at this area recently. I think the church was required to close one of the two entrances to
Right.
that property. It was supposed to be the northern one that they were closed. So
I think that happens. Yeah.
that happened. So that gives them a little bit more room to be
It
able to
does.
work in. But yeah, it's a great point, and we may have to shorten that from what the design shows right here to make sure that we're getting those vehicles out of the traffic flow waiting to make that left turn. Looks like Megan had a question or comment.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. You mentioned the speeds being reduced here with these improvements, which is great, but I was wondering if the speed limit signs are gonna be reduced at all through this section. It seems to me that 45 is a little too fast up until kind of makes sense, maybe even after Cascadia, that then it would become 45 and 25 up until then, but is that being
Yeah,
looked at as part of this?
it absolutely is. VDOT has a weird way to measure and change speed limits that we have to work through, but the idea is, yes, that we would like to actually not just reduce overall speeds, but reduce the speed limit as well. So we're considering that. Stephanie?
Yes, I just had one question in reference to the crosswalk. Whether it be, I know we talked about at one point, and there was some discussion about having like lights or something on, or the ability to push the button and the lights would light up on the crosswalk so people would stop, or is how that mechanism going to work?
Yes, absolutely. That's part of the consideration. What she's referring to are what we call the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. So the things that almost look like strobe lights that pedestrians can push, and it really draws attention to those pedestrian crossings and works really well. There are certain criteria that have to be met as far as the road and speeds and things like that. But that is one of the major thoughts that we have, is to try and get one of those signals out there. Okay, with that, move on to the last little piece of this. I just wanted to highlight that we are currently in our AC 44 process, so the Albemarle County Comprehensive Plan update that we are working on, that is looking out for the next 20 years at what Albemarle County really values, what our goals are, what we're striving for. And as part of that, transportation is obviously one of the major things that we're looking at through AC 44. We are going to be in front of the Planning Commission at their next meeting, which is the second week of May. And so I invite everybody to try and come in and listen in on that conversation. After that, we'll follow it up and be in front of the board to present on transportation. And essentially, I'm just showing you here how that chapter is really built out. So the chapter kind of breaks down all of our goals and objectives and actions into how we want to look at transportation in the development area and how we want to look at it in the rural area, because we really approach it in different ways. You can see here, this is our development area goal. What it's really focused on is meeting mobility needs of all users, including walking, biking, and transit. So really providing multimodal travel to major destinations. It's really heavily tied to our land use chapter, which identifies these centers, and that's really where we want to focus our transportation infrastructure. The centers are areas where we expect to see higher densities of residences and jobs. And so we want to focus our transportation infrastructure into getting people to those areas and then within those areas safely. And a lot of that is going to be reliant on improvements to bicycle and pedestrian and transit facilities. So based on that, we've developed 7 goals for the development area. And I'm not going to read them all to you, but essentially they really are about, like I said, addressing transit needs, pedestrian needs, bike needs, as well as drivers, and how we can address congestion and things like that in our development area. When you look at the rural area, what we're really focusing on are, we want to make our roads safe out in the rural area, and focusing on reducing traffic fatalities and making sure that our rural communities can get into the development areas. So you can see some of the objectives we have here. This is really just a preview. Like I said, we're going to be in front of the Planning Commission, and we'll go into a lot more detail, and there'll be a lot bigger discussions there, and then follow that up with the board. I believe it's a month after the Planning Commission meeting, so something to look forward to there. And with that, that brings me to the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to take additional questions from the CAC or anyone else as you choose. Dick?
Dick, you're still muted if you'd like to unmute yourself.
So, yeah. Megan, I think I noticed you as one who has a question. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Kevin, can you go, I'm sorry, can you share your screen again and go back to the intersection improvements of 20 and 250? I'm just curious if you could talk a little bit about what the turning movements are at the McDonald's. I know there's been, I witnessed a lot of people trying to get in and out of that intersection and going across. And so I'm just curious, I can't recall what those turning movements look like.
Let me see. I grabbed the wrong thing there. Let me pull up my actual presentation here.
Because I know you're narrowing it, going north on 20 to 1 lane, it looked like. But I'm wondering
Oh, don't
how
think.
that's gonna work.
Let me go back to that. That's up at the Route
Yeah.
20.
It was kind of a zoomed in one of those improvements on 20 north and 250 where the lane changes were going to be made.
Yeah. Let me see how I can it's not as easy to navigate when I'm using PowerPoint here. So what you're talking about is I think it's on my screen here. I know it's not in presentation, but
Yes,
sorry,
that's correct.
but what the movements are coming in and out of the McDonald's here.
Yeah, because oftentimes people are trying to turn left and get in the middle lane, but then things back up even into the intersection when there's multiple cars. And so I can't really tell
Yeah, you can
what
see that
exactly is
we do
happening.
have what they are showing is the a left turn into there being allowed. So you
Okay.
can see that right here. So you'll be able to make a left from northbound 20 into there. It I don't see anything that's preventing left turns out, but
Okay.
this is still a concept. So let me look at that and and see what the exact design is, and I can send something out to follow up as to what
Okay.
the exact plan is there.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if that was, it looks like the 2 lanes are still being kept now in 20. Now I'm looking at it closer. I just wanted to see. And then there's a median with a left. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to look at that a little bit closer so I could,
Yeah, I'm happy to send you the
yeah,
better drawing, but yeah, you can see that there is a left
yeah,
turn that's allowing people to make a left in. But like I
right,
said, I can't quite tell what they're proposing
to come
if they
out.
want to restrict that left out.
Yeah.
Um, I can imagine that would be a difficult movement to make at a lot of times of the day. So
Yeah.
I will ask VDOT what the
Okay.
exact plans are there.
All right. Thank you.
I would be interested in seeing that as well, because I observe that most days when I go up to work. It's quite,
Yeah,
Yeah,
just send to the whole group. It should go to the whole group. Not
absolutely.
just-
Like any of the responses to the questions that I see here, I will go through Allison and make sure that it gets out to everyone.
great.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Dick, I have a
Uh,
question also.
Okay, please go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, hi, Kevin. I was curious if there are any updates on improvements to the bicycle and pedestrian um, bridges over the Ravenna, for example, going from the State Farm area over to Woolen Mills.
Uh, no, not at this time. You know, we have made a few applications through Smart Scale to try and get that bridge funded. The location was down there. You would go right there next to State Farm, down to the river, and then cross over to the wool factory, or right by the wool factory. So we unfortunately did not get funded through Smart Scale, and then the MPO, the Charlottesville Albemarle MPO, also has made an application through Raise to get that funded. And so far we've been unsuccessful. I think at this point, it's a very expensive project, and I think that's part of what's holding us back. We may want to start looking at if there's ways to adjust the specific location of that bridge or anything like that that might give us a better opportunity to get it funded. But right now, we have not been able to identify a funding source.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a follow-up, Michael?
No, just I feel like, roughly a year ago, that was the state of play. And there was a sense that there was more conservative engineering built in to deal with the various risks. And so it ended up, having, Pentagon style design features. So that's part of why I asked. And then the corollary to that would be if you head north on 20, I mean, it gets very bucolic quickly once we get past the intersection there near the Elks Club and the entrance into our community. But the road is very narrow. So is there any talk about widening Route 20 to 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 add greater opportunities for biking?
Not a lot, although there has been talk about some we've had discussions that included, and I think it was an older proposal to have some bike ped facilities that provided access all along the Darden Tow Park frontage there. You know, they just put in that one new connection that goes from the Elks 20 intersection up to the tennis courts, that new pedestrian connection through there. So there's also been some talk about possibly extending that along the frontage as well through the park. But once you get to the north end of the park and you really start to reach the end of our of the development area, we don't talk a lot about new pedestrian facilities on the roads up there in the rural area.
Talking about countywide as well
Yeah,
as that specific area.
exactly. Although I will say, and you may have noted it, and I'm sure it'll be pointed out in the comp plan, we do highlight that there is a need to have some improved bicycle facilities in the rural area. but they're less likely to be things like a shared use path and more like a slightly wider shoulder just to give bicyclists an area where they could get out of traffic, also additional signage and things like that to make drivers aware of the potential presence of bicyclists. So those are some of the things that we're thinking about through the comp plan.
Yeah, so for example, perhaps a long-term goal would be to take it up to that roundabout that connects to Profit,
Ooh.
and then from there over to 29.
I would love to see it. That's a long distance and probably an expensive project, but it's something I think as we see if we see a desire for, we'd continue to evaluate it.
Just to comment, if you wanted a low cost improvement, the area between, if you know Carson Farm Drive, Carson Farm Road, it's just a little bit north of the church entry. There's one private residence, and then there's Carson Farm. Between there, which is opposite Dorier, which is a little road on the west side of Route 20 at the same place. But between Carson Farm and Dorier, there's a very, very narrow area to walk or bicycle. It's not safe. I did it the other day, and it's not a very safe area. And the only alternative is to go on to a private property where a dog is rather active. So I chose not to do that and walked along. It was safe enough because it was early and there was no traffic. But I don't think there's much demand for that. So it is if anyone like myself does that, it's a bit risky. That's only about 100 yards.
Thanks. I'll let you continue calling on people, Dick, and
I'm
let me
looking. I
know
don't see
when.
anybody yet.
I think Ida Lee.
Good. Ida Lee.
Oh.
Am I muted?
I think Ida Lee's muted.
You're muted, Ida Lee.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Kevin, thank you for your presentation. I have two questions, one that's countywide and one is more directed at Pantops. So number one, countywide, I applaud the county's emphasis on designated growth areas. But and I appreciate that there's one in Crozet and one on Pantops. So my question is, what is being done to consider the weight of the additional traffic on overpasses as people go to and from on 64 and 250 between Charlottesville and Crozet? That's number one question. And number two is I keep frequently asking people regarding Pantops, what is being done to try to address the increased traffic flow on Free Bridge? We are again a designated growth area and traffic backs up incredibly for what, a mile sometimes when there's an accident trying to cross Free Bridge in the morning. And so what is being done to try to increase our opportunities for another transit opportunity across the river? And lastly, again, what is being done to consider the weight considerations of the increased traffic on Free Bridge?
So regarding the weight, as I mentioned, that is a VDOT
I know.
job to address the maintenance of all of our bridges. I will say that they are required to regularly inspect all the bridges. The bridges are built to handle the amount of weight that they could possibly see, and they are constantly checking them to make sure that they're still in good condition. So I think that I trust that VDOT is doing a good job, and the state does have a separate funding source, one called State of Good Repair, that is where the money comes from to do replacement bridges, and they prioritize them by their condition, and of course, if they're on something like a corridor of statewide significance, which both 64 and 250 are considered by the state to be corridors of statewide significance. So they're constantly monitoring those, and they are also making sure that they're getting the money to them to keep them in good repair. So I think they've done a good job. So I'm going to continue to trust their effort on that. As far as the increased congestion, a couple things I'll say is that, we recognize that 250 is a major entrance to get people into downtown Charlottesville, into the UVA area, and it has to be able to accept a lot of traffic. The ways that we're trying to address that are through our transit and bike ped improvements to give people these options. Like we mentioned earlier, the park and ride lot is one opportunity where we would like to serve that park and ride lot with transit and try and intercept people that are trying to get to UVA, where they're going to have to park and get on a bus anyway, try and get them to park there and get on a bus and take that in. So trying to enhance our transit and bike ped system to give people options, and also the potential bridge that we continue to try and find a way for, that was mentioned earlier, an alternative bridge for pedestrian traffic. The other thing I will point out, things like this Route 20 intersection improvement that in the corridor improvements, we expect those to help move traffic through the corridor better. We're also having discussions with the city of Charlottesville about the intersection on their side of the river, where High Street runs in, which is really one of the major choke points. I think VDOT has done a good job of work on the signals throughout the county. That intersection and the signal system there is outdated, and I think needs to be brought up. And I think that would help allow a better flow of traffic. So those are some of the things that we're working on to address that issue.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Allison, you have your hand up. You
I
want
do
to?
have my hand up. Ron had joined us earlier, and he has since left, but he did.
Who is that?
Ron had joined us earlier as an attendee and had submitted two related questions that I will ask on his behalf. And he has left us, but since this is recorded, I figure he can come back and watch this if he'd like. He had asked, is the pedestrian bridge at 29, so I'm assuming he means the pedestrian bridge over 29 from the Stonefield area to the Seminole Square Shopping Center area. Is the pedestrian bridge at 29 a joint city-county project, and what does it portend for possible pedestrian bridges in Pantops? He mentions over the river or 250. Obviously, you talked about the river one a little bit, but over 250 I know has been an ask in the past as well. And then he also asked, what was the funding for the 29 pedestrian bridge?
Yeah, so that was it was funded through Smart Scale, and also there was additional leftover money that came from the 29 Solutions projects, which was that whole host of projects that you saw out on 29 that included the extension of Berkmar, Hillsdale improvements, the widening of the lanes. All of that was one very large state project that was funded a decade ago. And so there was some leftover money from that funded the improvements all around hydraulic, which were all together. So the roundabout that you see out there now, in this bridge, which is just north of hydraulic, for those of you who haven't been able to get out there and see where the piers are coming up, it will connect from Stonefield over into the area near where that car wash is on the city side of 29. So that's where that bridge is. It was really a joint project among the city, the county, VDOT, and the Charlottesville Albemarle MPO. And the MPO was the one that actually applied for that through Smart Scale. So the Smart Scale application closed that remaining funding gap from what we had left over. And so related to his question about if it portends to other potential opportunities for joint projects, yes, we are always working well with our city counterparts in VDOT to try and find those connections between the two areas, or between our jurisdictions. And I think 250 is always a possibility. We are working hard to get these new at-grade crossings in. And I know we've also looked at ways to get people under Free Bridge in a much easier manner, so that can be used as another crossing opportunity. So we've got those at-grade ones, but we always keep our eyes open for off grade. As a matter of fact, the crossing that I showed up there at the top of the hill where the giant intersection is there next to the Montessori school, we actually evaluated that for a pedestrian bridge before we ended up with the current alternative of the at-grade crossing. Essentially, we recognized that the bridge over 250, the cost of that would not have allowed us to get that funding, because it was just the grades and everything, the changing grades, it was going to be way too expensive. So we weren't able to move forward with a bridge there, but we went with the at-grade crossings.
Thank you. Any further questions?
There's one more question from
Idly, is that one I see? Have you another question?
I have a question, Dick. This is Allison from a community member
Fine.
who is attending the meeting. Holly asked, or said, and then asked, e-bike popularity is surging and making people who never would have considered commuting to work on a bike more and more comfortable with the idea. She says, I am one of those people. How can those of us with new enthusiasm for commuting by bike join our voices with existing cyclists to encourage the county to prioritize infrastructure for bike paths? I'll also add, Kevin, I know there's some confusion sometimes with this, but can you talk about the differences between biking in the city and in the county? I know the county allows biking on sidewalks. It's obviously not always ideal, but I know in the city you're not technically supposed to bike on the sidewalks, but that is an option in the county, if I'm understanding correctly. So if you can talk a little bit about that too in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, you are correct that we are, the city has a city code that says you're not allowed to bike on sidewalks. The county does not have that, so you are allowed to bike on sidewalks in the county. Our sidewalk system needs work as well, just like our bike facilities, but it is an option if they're out there. The only thing I can say is, Holly, I think the county hears you loud and clear. We're very excited about e-bikes. I think that's something that we're really that has really helped us move forward with the 3-notch trail opportunities, because that's something that I don't think a lot of people would have found useful back before e-bikes, but now it's something that, biking longer distance is very reasonable for a lot more people. We love to see it, and I say continue to talk to can you hear me still? You're not okay. Continue to talk to your supervisors and representatives, and let them know how you feel about that, and hopefully we can continue to work to build a better system.
Not seeing any more questions. I think we just owe you a big thanks, Kevin. That was a splendid presentation. I mean, certainly helped me understand not only the process, but where we stand on these different projects. So thank you very much. If there's any last word from one of the members, I'll give you that chance now. Otherwise, I think we will move to give if our Yes, we all, if our supervisors would like to use the time allotted for them to any comments, we will certainly give B and Michael that chance. But we have come also to the end of our allotted time.
In the interest of time, what I was going to talk about, which was the airport, I will wait till next month. Thank you, because we're out of
Okay.
time.
And Mike?
I would just very briefly share that we have voted on the budget since you last heard from us
Oh,
during the
good.
budget town
Yes.
hall. There were a few tweaks around the edges. Basically three different things that we drew from a strategic reserve fund to fund. So there was an additional 1 million that was put into the housing trust fund, an additional 200,000 that was put into emergency eviction relief and utility shutoff prevention, and 300,000 that was put into the climate action fund. Those were all kind of in specific response to different community requests, and all of those came from a single kind of board created fund that had been created during kind of a high water budget year several years back.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's hope for another high budget surplus year. There being no other comments from members and no further words from our two supervisors, I think we can declare the meeting adjourned. With thanks to all, and especially to you, Kevin.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Kevin, again for all your work and for the great presentation.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alice.